So, hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to give as much of an update as I can, or anything that I do know for people who aren't completely aware of all the information that has come out of Tonga. I just wanted to update you all as much as possible. So, first things first, there was a media release last night from Tonga, which managed to get out, and what was said during that was that there were 2 more deaths, bringing the death toll up to 3 at this present moment that we know of. That included a lady from Nomuka who was, I believe, 60, 64 or 65. Don't quote me on this. And a young man from, a lady from Mango Island, and a young man from Nomuka who was only 49 years old when he passed away. What we have heard is that every house in Mango Island was completely destroyed, and there was a lot of devastation through Nomuka. For those who don't know, all of the English speakers and everyone else around the world, Nomuka's in the Ha'apai group, and there was a lot of devastation there as well, in terms of property damage. What we have heard is that the whole islands, every island, and there are close to around 180 to 190 islands in Tonga, they're all covered in ash. There's a layer of ash on all of these islands. And as you can imagine, some of the aerial footage from the New Zealand planes showed that it's so thick that it's even blanketing some of the water. Obviously, most of the drinking water in Tonga comes from rainwater, which lands on roofs and then goes into water tanks. And so that's what people are drinking, but there's a layer of ash on everyone's roof. And this isn't just dirt, this is volcanic ash. It's quite toxic. On top of this, the ash has, because it's ash, there's fears for respiratory health. People are breathing this stuff in, so it's somewhat of a catastrophe. Well, it is a catastrophe what's happening in Tonga. And from my perspective, I've been working quite hard, and I think a lot of people around the world, there's pretty much every Tongan around the world has been working very, very hard, and a lot of you who aren't Tongan from around the world have also been sharing posts and getting the news out there. I'd heard that there wasn't as much coverage of this overseas, and it was quite difficult for me to hear, because there's a whole country covered in ash in the Pacific. We get hit by a volcanic eruption and then a tsunami. So I've been trying to get as much awareness out there, to try and get as much help, try and get as much aid across to Tonga. Yesterday, I was doing some work with UNICEF, and UNICEF had joined forces with the Australian government to try and send some wash kits, some sanitation kits, some recreational kits out to Tonga. On the plan was for them to go out on the HMAS Adelaide, which was leaving from Brisbane to Tonga. And the HMAS Adelaide is an Australian vessel, and UNICEF was getting as much of that aid on there as well. There were other local organisations here who were donating other things. So whilst I was there were, I believe, Bunnings Warehouse, for example, they had donated big, thick boots, gum boots, and all these sorts of things. And there was just more coming in at that time. So that was all being put on the HMAS Adelaide, but there was also, I believe, a flight getting ready to leave out of Brisbane. For those who don't know, the New Zealand flight that went across, they said that they couldn't land, or other flights couldn't land, because of the layer of ash on the runway on the main island of Tonga, Tongatapu. I heard this morning that there were close to 200 volunteers who were manually sweeping the ash off the runway using brooms. had I known this information beforehand, and I would have loved to have gotten maybe 20 or 30 big, powerful leaf blowers across, but hindsight, right? Either way, I'm sure that there's a lot of other stuff on that boat heading to Tonga, which is going to help those efforts. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have come together to try and find ways to help, and I'm sure on the HMAS Adelaide, which was meant to have left this morning. I don't have confirmation on if it's left yet or if that's the case, but it was being packed with stuff to send across. Eddie I just got a comment. Eddie said, never too late for the leaf blowers. Eddie, it's certainly something I've been thinking about. We've done a fundraiser, and there have been a lot of areas that I've been looking at in how best to help people. There is aid coming in from Australia, New Zealand. I had heard that Israel was providing aid, and hopefully throughout all of this outreach and awareness, other countries are going to be joining forces to help us out as well. But I've been looking at ways what are the gaps that are going to need to be filled. We've got a GoFundMe. Where can we fill the gaps in aid, and how can we help the people as much as possible? It's a little bit difficult at this present moment because the network is still down. The submarine cable was severed, and which provides all of the information from Tonga. But we are being patient. We are waiting to see what that need is. There's a lot of speculation around water, health, healthcare, and obviously rebuilding products. Guys, I just want people to be aware that it's not just as easy as sending money and sending a container. So for example, a container of stuff can take weeks or months. So that's certainly something that we're looking at. I'll be forming a committee to help distribute those funds, to look for the needs. But remember, I just want people to be aware that this can take time in terms of the actual logistics of it. Boats, there's still, as of yesterday evening, there was still a warning for the marine area of Tonga, and I'm sure boats and container ships are ready to go when the time is ready. So I just wanted to let people know so that there's no frustration around people wanting things in there now. It's not as easy as just flicking my fingers and having stuff in there at this present moment. But rest assured, we are working hard to make sure that the needs will be met when the time comes. And we've been reaching out to people as much as possible. I've just finished an interview on NBC. We did BBC this morning, close to 25, 30 interviews a day, just trying for outreach. And but I wanted to thank everyone here on, this one's currently on my Facebook. I wanted to thank everyone here for helping with the GoFundMe funds. We're almost halfway there, and right now I don't even know what there looks like. We're guesstimating tens to millions of dollars worth of damage, but I put a goal, and if we can keep pushing towards that, all of those help, guys, 100% will be going to Tonga. But also people who haven't been able to give money. We completely understand times are very difficult at the moment, and we appreciate those who are sharing information, sharing the fundraiser, but even just reaching out to Tongans all around the world and just getting the information out there that there is a country in the middle of the Pacific covered in ash where a tsunami then hit. So we appreciate all of that. The other thing that I wanted to come on here and let people know is that there is the communications with Tonga. I heard this morning that they're going to be trying to get up a lower level form of communication, so 2G network within the next 24 to 48 hours through satellite. So that's good news. That's good news. I haven't seen that. It's not up yet, but there are a couple of telecommunications companies trying to get that set up in the next 24 to 48 hours. So we may be hearing some information coming out, a little bit more information coming out from Tonga, other than just the satellite phone messages which are coming through. I also understand that there's been a lot of people who have wanted to help from around the world in terms of helping with, there's doctors, for example, who want to go and help. There's somewhat of a challenge at the moment, other than the tsunami and the volcano, in that Tonga's only ever had one COVID case, so the borders have been shut. So I just want people to be respectful of the fact that our country still doesn't have corona just yet. But also there's a need, there will be a need for that at some stage. I don't know if that's in the days, the weeks, the months, the years coming, but I can certainly say that Tonga always needs help with regards to medical professions and that sort of thing. What we may need to do is, just speaking on the medical profession again, is we're going to see what needs the hospitals have, and then do what we can to try and fill those needs, whether that be masks or whatever the hospital equipment is. I'm no expert on this, so for anyone out there who has connections with, I guess, companies that provide hospital equipment, feel free to connect to us, to email us. I do know we're getting inundated with messages, so please, if you could just email the stuff that's super important, that would be greatly appreciated, but I do appreciate all of the messages. On a personal note, I just had information from the Ha'apai Islands. Our home in Ha'apai is still standing. They said that the waves went all the way through. The water went all the way through the home, but the foundation was strong. So they've started the cleanup there, and there was no loss of life or injury on my personal home. But there's many homes all around Tonga and Ha'apai as well that have been damaged and will need the assistance. So that was good news from my perspective. What was I going to say? My father, I haven't heard from my father. He's on a different island. He's on the island of Tonga Tapu, last I heard. But I know that many people out there are going through a similar sort of process. Right now, my energy, my motivation is on helping the people of Tonga, and I can't be vested too much on personal issues. There's a whole country that needs as much help as possible, and I'm doing my best to do that. So obviously there's a lot more work that needs to be done. For everyone out there as well who's listening, who has connections in the areas of water filtration, desalination, solar, as I mentioned before, hospital and healthcare supplies, then that, if you could also reach out to us. Whilst I would love to say that it'd be great just to send containers of water bottles, I don't think, well, I think that there's better medium to long-term solutions for this, to ensure that the water supply of Tonga is consistently, that what we do have there can consistently be filtered, that the water supply can be looked after. I do know that there was some level of a desalination being sent across to Tonga. I think that's from the Australian government. I don't know the size of that and where that will be sent. But as I mentioned before, there's 180 islands, many of which are inhabited, many of which aren't, and everyone is going to be needing water. So, guys, I'm trying to work with and think about the best ways to look after the water that is there. So for those who don't know, the drinking water in Ha'apai comes from rainwater tanks. We also, the municipal, I don't know this word, I shouldn't be saying words I don't understand, but the town water comes from a water layer not far underground. And the problem with that water layer not far underground is that it's good enough, I guess, for cooking, for cleaning, for some level of sanitation, but it's also brackish water. And what this means is that it's got salt in it. It's some level of salty water, so they can't actually drink that water that's coming out. This is in Ha'apai, that's coming out from the ground. It would be fantastic if there was a way of filtering what is underground so that they can, but these are the conversations that we are going to be having. as we go into this rebuild process. I don't know exactly how that looks now, but I do know that just obviously the sending water is good in the immediate term, but this whole layer of ash and making sure that these islands have consistent water, consistent electricity. The internet and cable is beyond me, but if anyone out there knows Elon Musk or any of these big technology people, then make sure you go and tag them in this video or any other video where they can help Tonga. Maybe I'll go and Twitter him. But if anyone has any contacts also in the shipping industries, so shipping containers, at some stage we're going to be filling shipping containers with equipment, with things that need to head across to Tonga. Feel free to connect us to anyone with shipping information on people in the logistics and shipping areas. And guys, just remember that you can send stuff from any country. It is limited a little bit which countries go directly to Tonga, but if you can look in your local area and see if there's shipping companies that do send from your area, feel free to send whatever it is that you feel would be a need. And at some stage, we're going to be looking at doing group shipping of things. So I'm currently in Brisbane. I know there's people in Auckland as well. And I know that there's a lot of people wanting to send goods to their family back at home or things which may have been damaged. So at some stage I'll try and facilitate this, and I'll be using all the funds that we have raised and that we're still raising to help this happen. But that's an ongoing process. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that. It's as I mentioned before, I can't just flick my fingers and we're in Tonga giving out stuff yet. And at the moment, that's kind of, there is a level of that being needed, but we're trying as well. So I've just had a question from Alicia, and she has said to send money. So for people who have family in Tonga, feel free to send help to your family or to people over in Tonga. So the question was that just send money to Tonga. Alicia, it's not actually that easy. Whilst you can send money, Tonga still needs to import the goods that they need. So I do agree that we should send, if you know people in Tonga, send money so that they can help buy whatever is still available locally. But also remember that when you're buying local, depending on where it's coming from, there's a markup. There's also limited supplies in Tonga. You can't just, I guess, not everything is there, but if you can help, if people do need funds, send it straight to them. I've set up the GoFundMe for people who don't know anyone in Tonga but want to help in that regards, or people I guess who do. So we'll be looking at big projects. We're not just looking at sending small things. We're looking at how can we make sure that water supply is looked after, not for the next week, but for the next month, for the next year, for the next 5 years. Tonga is in line with has a lot of tsunamis. Not tsunamis. Cyclones. So cyclones come through, and there's higher prevalence of cyclones coming through at the moment due to what's happening with the climate. So these things will be needed again. Water, hospital, emergency electricity, and obviously food supplies and all of that. But we want to find ways to make sure that people there can sustain themselves rather than just continually giving singular use items. So thank you for everyone who's tuned in. I just wanted to share that information. As more information comes through, I'll be sharing more of that information. I'm limited with the amount of information that I know, but what I do know, I'm trying to share that as much as possible. For guys, for anyone that's wanting to help, we have set up a GoFundMe. It can be reached at, and I'll put a link below, Tonga Tsunami by Pita Taufatofua. there's many other areas that you can help with. And if you can just help by reaching out to people who are in some of the industries that I mentioned before, then that would be a big help for us as well. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. And I just wanted to update you all, but I appreciate everyone that's helping, and I pray that you continue helping. If you can share the fundraiser as much as possible. We're not quite there yet, but we're pushing. Every dollar will be used for the people of Tonga, and it'll be used in the areas that I spoke about before. Once communication is open, we will set up a committee within Tonga who will be assessing the specific need. And we're hoping to start that process in the next 24 to 48 hours, assuming that telecommunications come back up. So guys, I appreciate you all. I've got a lot more awareness stuff to do. And I thank you all for all of the help that you are giving to our little island country of Tonga. So sending you all my love. Ofatu.